Back at it again, coast to coast. We have one of the Sweeney 7 featured teams. UAB had a huge win against La Tech, and they are sitting in first place in Conference USA. We have assistant coach Ryan Cross with us in the hotel doing some recruiting, I'm sure, because that's what he does. One of the things he does well. Wanted to have him on and talk about this UAB team. Let's talk about the game, the big game. Two of the top teams in the conference, La Tech and you guys. You guys came out with the win. Talk a little bit about that game and walk us through how you guys were able to pull it off.
You know, it was a big game for our season, obviously, and then, you know, Eric Conkle has really kind of owned UAB. I mean, he was going into that game. He was 7-2 against UAB in his tenure, and they beat us both times last year. So, you know, it was a game that we just needed to. You know, obviously for league standings, it was big, but you know they've had a great program there, and so it was a quality win for us. You know, anytime you go on the road, you beat. You know, I think they had won 18 straight home games. They've had a lot of success there over the years at home. So, you know, tough place to win, and so certainly a quality win.
Yeah, I got one more, and I'll pass to Kevin. What do you love about this year's UAB team? Obviously, you guys this is second year. First year, you guys had a lot of success with your squad, too. What do you love about this year's UAB squad?
You know, one thing I'll say about our team from day one, whether we play well or not, our competitive spirit is outstanding. You know, we've got an older group, you know, but really from the moment they got on campus this summer, their competitive spirit has been really tremendous. Practices are very competitive. You know, just got a competitive group of guys.
Love it. Love it. Sweeney?
Yeah, I mean, on the competitiveness front, I would imagine it takes a real competitive spirit for some of the guys that you guys got to commit this spring to commit. I mean, quite frankly, you guys had more guys than starting spots that committed talent-wise that were already competing with the guys coming back. Like, when you were in the recruiting process of putting together this transfer class in particular, what was the process like to get everyone bought into, like, hey, we can be a special team, we can win the league, go to NCAA tournament, we can do all these things, but it's not going to involve you coming in and playing 35 minutes a game and being the leading scorer necessarily?
Yeah, you know, we took 6 guys out of the transfer portal. We had 4 starters returning. So, you know, going in this year, we had 10 guys on our roster that had started last year in Division I. So obviously all 10 guys can't start. So, you know, one thing that we have really tried to sell our team on is you know, winning a league, winning a conference championship, going to the NCAA tournament. You know, we've got some older guys. Some of them have never experienced the NCAA tournament, so that's really been their focus, is putting the team ahead of themselves and, you know, really trying to get UAB back to the NCAA tournament.
And one of those guys that came in this year was Jordan Walker, obviously from Tulane. He had a huge game this past weekend. We put up 36 points and made 9 threes against Louisiana Tech. What is his emergence meant to your team this year? And obviously, Andy Kennedy's recruited elite guards and developed elite guards really throughout his tenure. What separates Jordan Walker?
You know, he's a dynamic guard in this respect. He really can get he can get a shot off, you know, whenever he wants. He can get separation and he can get a shot off. And, you know, Andy's over the years, he's, you know, every point guard that's played for him and as a head coach has ended up making all conference. So, you know, that was certainly a selling point to Jelly, you know, in the recruiting process. And, you know, Andy does a great job of putting those guards in position to make plays. And he's really stepped up. He was the Conference USA Player of the Week last week. He had 2 big games against Florida International and Florida Atlantic. And then, you know, this week to go for 36 and hit 9 threes, which was a UAB record, was certainly a dynamic performance. But he's a playmaking guard, you know, and we wish sometimes he would finish a little bit better from 2-point range, but, you know, he's shooting well over 40% from 3, and you know, he's made some really long, hard shots, you know, so he has been a key to our emergence.
this is probably one of the older teams in Division One. With feels like juniors and seniors and COVID year seniors across the board. For you guys as coaches, what does that allow you to do in practice? Obviously, you have a newer group, new transfer. You mentioned the 6 new guys that came in, but what does just having guys who've been around college basketball do for you guys on a day-to-day basis in practice?
Well, one thing that's been unique about this team is, obviously, anytime you have a new group, you want to implement, your standards and your expectations and all that. But we've got guys that have been through battles, and in numerous different leagues. We've got a few guys, 3 guys that played in the SEC last year. Jelly played in the American Conference. We've got 3 guys that were all conference players in the Sun Belt. So we've got guys that have played at different levels. But, just the fact that they've been in the fire, so to speak, at the Division I level, you're really not, a lot of times when you take high school kids or junior college kids, you're trying to teach them how to operate at the Division I level. And so that's been kind of refreshing. It's not, they understand what it's like to be in a Division I game and be in battles in conference play. So, you're not going through those growing pains of teaching guys how to operate at the Division I level.
You mentioned conference battles. Certainly the Conference USA has been really competitive this season, top to bottom. You guys have won on the road already at North Texas and on the road at Louisiana Tech, 2 of the premier programs in the league. Obviously, North Texas won an NCAA tournament game last season. Can you speak to the strength of this league and how talented and competitive it seems like it is every single night?
Yeah, it's a good league this year, and Western Kentucky's got a really good program. I mean, they played Ole Miss earlier in the year and beat them pretty soundly. And we got to go there on Thursday, and they've dropped 3 in a row. But they're a very good team, and I think one thing about this league, from top to bottom, anybody can beat anybody. So it's a very competitive league. I do think there's several quality teams. North Texas goes on the road and beats Wichita State earlier in the year. So, there's been some quality wins in our league, and there's good players, there's good coaches, and it's just a very competitive league. And I think Brian can probably speak to this as well. I think anytime you get in the top 15 or 16 leagues in the country, it's a higher level than sometimes people than they think. And you get labeled mid-major, but I don't really know what that means. I mean, I think everybody has good players. There's good players all over the country, and when you get in those top 15 or 16 leagues, there's good players, there's good coaches, and the level of basketball is a lot better than the average fan may think.
Right. Talk about this transfer portal, how you think it's changed the game for you talked about guys that have played in a lot of different levels. You're able to acquire a different level of talent throughout your roster than maybe that 1 or 2 outliers that you used to be able to have at a program like UAB. What has that done? Obviously, you've done a great job. You guys have done a great job in the portal. What do you think about the new way of recruiting that way?
Well, I think it's just reality, and I think I hear some coaches complain about it. I just think it's a reality that we're dealing with, and it's something you better embrace and you better adjust to. And I think it's a good thing. I think it gives players options. It gives coaches options. I think about it like this. I've got 3 daughters in college, and sometimes kids, the average student goes off to college and they make a decision to go to a different route. So it gives kids, it's just a one-time transfer exception. So it gives kids an opportunity if they make a mistake in the recruiting process and they need a new environment. It gives them that opportunity to seek something new. So I think it's just a reality of today's college basketball. I do think, the old saying of trying to get old and stay old, it allows you to have an experienced roster, but I also think this. I think there's some value to not really get caught up in just, we're going to go the transfer portal route. Just try to recruit good players, and try to recruit players that fit in your program.
Right.
And and then everybody ends up winning in that respect.
Yeah, I love that you said that because I think people get so fixated sometimes. Like, you're not always going to have success going just only that route because those guys aren't as invested. You still need program guys. You still need good players that come from junior college or high school. The bottom line is get the best players you can to fit your program.
Yeah, and I look at like Louisiana Tech, for example, who we just played. I mean, Kenneth Lofton's a high school kid, and he has made a significant impact, on their program, on our conference, and he's a kid out of high school. So the key is to recruit players that fit your program and recruit players that can help you have success, and then everybody wins. The player wins, the program wins, the coaches, everybody. That's a happy marriage. So the key is just recruit players that fit what you're trying to do, and make sure you have enough talent to win.
No doubt. Kevin, we got to end it with our funny story question. I know Ryan Cross has a funny story. I know that for a fact.
Well, he also works for Andy Kennedy, and there has to be a good Andy Kennedy story out there somewhere because
if this is going live, we might have to be careful there. he still signs my paycheck. No, Andy's a funny guy. He's a really funny guy. He's intense though. He's very competitive and he's intense during the games but a funny story. Wow. You guys asked me this last year when I was there, and you catch me off guard. Andy's. I'm just going to I'll just kind of give you in general. Andy's great at this. He says some things in the heat of the moment that are funny, but he does a great job of keeping the players loose, and he's got a good sense of when to say something funny, and he really keeps the players loose in the heat of the battle. But we got some intensity in that program as well.
A little bit.
I will say this: of the coaches who are very active on Twitter, Andy Kennedy is among the more surprising for me. He just does not strike me as a guy who'd be tweeting all the time. But that man,
what's funny is when he was at Ole Miss, he was not on Twitter, and he's big on emojis. And when we signed Quan Jackson, I remember he said in an article, and I don't know if Andy saw it or not, but he said he uses emojis like a junior high girl. But he's big on emojis, and he is very active on Twitter. But I think he does a great job with it, and he likes the GIFs and the emojis and all that. But he's become very active on social media.
It's a good time to do it while you guys are winning, and he's leading the charge, man. We appreciate you taking the time. Good luck the rest of the way, and looking forward to seeing you guys continue to do great things, man.
Appreciate you guys, man.
Okay, Ryan. All right, another great guest. As always, we let Kevin break it down.
I mean, this is a special team, right? It's one of those teams that you look up and you say, can they sneak an at-large bid? You hope they can, because you hope their season doesn't come down to 3-4 days in March, because they're one of those teams that I can tell you every 4 seed, every 5 seed, they're looking like, oh, we don't want to play this team. First and foremost, the talent level, right? I mean, he kind of alluded to it. We alluded to it. Like, they have dudes that didn't just play at the high major level. They were really good, right? I mean, Jelly Walker at Tulane was a starting point guard in the American Conference. KJ Buffin was a starting power forward in the SEC.
Yep.
Jamal Johnson was a big part of Auburn last season. He was a key. He played like 25 minutes a game and shot 36% for 3. Honestly, maybe his role would have shrunk this year, but like they're Final Four team this year. Like it's and then they bring back guys who are around him. Last year with Michael Ertel and Quan Jackson and Taven Levin, and obviously up front with Trey Jemison, like this team is deep, athletic, talented, and obviously very well coached. When you talk about Andy Kennedy team, he has obviously a great pedigree, and I'm just excited to see them the rest of the way. This league is fun to watch. We've talked about it. We've talked about North Texas. We've talked about Louisiana Tech and what Kenneth Lofton does, like Kentucky with the talent. I mean, this league is just rough and tumble every week, and for UAB to be at 6-1 and 16-4 overall in year 2 under Andy Kennedy, I mean, that's turned into a really fantastic hire at that program.
Yeah, a couple quick stats on them. I mean, offensively, Ken Palm, they're number 11 in 3-point percentage, 38.5. That's a big deal. Offensive adjusted efficiency, they're 41. But then on the flip side, defensive adjusted efficiency, they're 57. Your steal percentage, they're 12 in the country, and then 19 and 2-point percentage defense.
A lot of green on that.
A lot of green. If you know anything about Ken Palm, a lot of green. And, defensively they're good, but they're also really good offensively. So when you can be good on both sides of the ball and you have experience and you have older players, it's definitely a formula for success. So looking forward to see what they continue to do. Appreciate Coach jumping on. And, UAB is the real deal.